On the opening day after opening day of Iron Man 3 to review this, what is going to be an awesome movie. We got here an hour early, and the line is
around the building. I mean, it might as well be.
There's probably 200 people ahead of us, and which is a little disappointing, but you know, when you only show up an hour ahead, that's what you get.
That's right. And we still have to record the opening. So, luckily enough, we have a lovely person holding a spot for us in line.
So, today we are obviously going to watch Iron Man 3. You picked this movie. Could you tell me a little bit about why you did that?
Well, first off, it's a new movie. It's out, and I have been absolutely fascinated and loved the first two Iron Mans, the Avengers. Just a wonderful story, and because in this story specifically, we see the arch nemesis of Iron Man. We see the Mandarin, who is played by Ben Kingsley, a phenomenal actor. So I'm in it for the bad guy, but also it's kind of rounding out the Iron Man story in Tony Stark. I'm really pumped about it.
Now, I know you said you just said you liked or loved both the first two and Avengers, right?
Yes.
What was it that you liked most about number 2, Iron Man 2?
Iron Man 2, we saw a lot of from the comics. We got to see specifically War Machine, who was in the comic book series, kind of the right-hand man. And for a time, War Machine took the place or did the job of Iron Man while Tony Stark was elsewhere doing other things. I love that about it. The bad guy in it, played by Mickey Rourke, was phenomenal in that character and what he was able to do. It was just so much fun. I like the idea of Iron Man facing down drones similar to his own suit. It was a neat story. And we get to see a little bit of backstory between Tony Stark and his father, and we see that history a little bit, which was kind of neat as well.
So, not having seen Iron Man 3 yet, do you feel that Iron Man 2 was better prepped for Avengers or Iron Man 3?
Avengers, definitely. Mainly because after the end credits of what you see, the whole interaction between Samuel Jackson character, help me out here.
Nick Fury,
I couldn't think of the name. We see that Nick Fury, we see Agent Coulson, and they talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. a lot. So to me, it was better prepped for Avengers. Iron Man 3 is going to be great because it's on the heels of Avengers. We have a wonderful backstory. Now we're introducing a whole new story that is separate from the Avengers, which is going to be fun.
Now, I personally have been holding off on reading other reviews and such because I didn't want to bias myself too much or learn too much from this movie. Are you hoping this is a conclusion to the trilogy or just another series?
Based on what I know of the comics, because this comic series follows the Extremis storyline, which came out in 2002 or 3, kind of as an alternate universe to the whole Iron Man story. The Extremis story is the exact what we see in the first one of how Tony Stark came to be Iron Man. We see that through the terrorists. We see that through that type of story. Based on what I know of that storyline, this, I think, will be the conclusion of the 3-story arc for Iron Man, and I don't think it'd be bad. If you're going to go on a high note before you start making ones that are going to be bad. I do think this will be a conclusion. I see that coming. Not that I hope it is, but I see it coming.
Now, I do have to say, in my opinion, as a conversion from a comic to a on-screen live-action movie, I think that Robert Downey Jr. has probably done the best job ever of transferring a comic book page character to a live-action character. And what's your opinion, though?
Well, it's interesting because when I first heard that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be Iron Man, my first reaction was like, oh my God, how he is not a superhero. Robert Downey Jr. does not play a superhero well. And then it was brought up to me, he doesn't have to play Iron Man. He has to play Tony Stark. That made sense. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is brilliant, is perfect. It's worked now, it's worked then, keep it.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a pretty good start. We ready to see the movie?
Absolutely.
I'm excited too.
Let's go.
Okay, this is M, and we are back from seeing Iron Man 3.
Scott, or S, back from seeing Iron Man 3 as well, actually. We're actually pulling out of the parking lot. So, we're coming to you live in a studio that is my moving truck.
So S, so this is definitely going to be some spoilers in this.
Yes. Big spoilers.
We before we can even get to the vehicle, we're already thinking of things and discussing what we're going to maybe mention. So first impressions.
First impressions, obviously, to me, this is the best Iron Man film that they have put out yet. It's got a lot of stuff in it, a lot of things that I kind of found a little bit weird, and stuff that I wasn't expecting based on what I know from the comic books, because that's my entire frame of reference with it. But fantastic movie. Man, was that a lot of fun.
Let's jump right into a spoiler. What do you think of Mandarin? Now, having seen the movie, that means a little more to us than it does
to people. Yeah. So before you listen to our show, people, please go watch the movie. Yeah, we're gonna end it right there. I was stunned at the Mandarin. I was expecting the Mandarin to be the Mandarin. I really was. He didn't turn out to be exactly who we thought he was. In fact, he was just a hired lackey, so to speak, to the main guy. Now, in this case, I'm really not that upset about it, although I was expecting the classic Mandarin from the comic book series. And Ben Kingsley, I think, would have done that very well. He did this part very well, which I thought was actually kind of made a better story. Oh, it was so good to see him turn out to be just some actor that they hired. It was fantastic.
Now, on that note, it's not exactly never been done be kind of switcheroo.
Right.
But it was very unexpected because I think, like you said, most people are basing their knowledge of the Mandarin based on the
comic series, right,
lore. So this version, and there was a true man behind the mask,
right,
which I thought was well done.
Right.
It was a good bad guy.
He was a fantastic bad guy. What made this guy particularly good is it wasn't just technology. I mean, it was a technology thing that he got, so to speak, basically reprogramming the brain to superheal itself, and apparently it heats up while it does the whole process. But what I found really interesting is I felt like I was looking at a character from X-Men, and it really didn't drive me nuts that that was the case. I actually kind of liked it, but it was completely different. It was a good contrast to Iron Man, the good guy, to have this fiery type flame. I mean, you can almost call him the Human Torch.
Yeah.
In contrast to Iron Man as a bad guy, I loved it.
In a little bit of a similarity, actually, this version of the Mandarin, which is a genetically enhanced human,
right,
actually does have some similarities to the comic book Mandarin.
Right.
Now,
yes.
Who had supernatural powers, but in this case, genetically enhanced powers.
Right.
So, what was your take on that aspect specifically?
I was expecting the Mandarin to be the Mandarin who has his ability through those 10 rings of his. That's what I was expecting, to be this mystical type guy thing, and it just kind of stunned me for a little bit, but what we got was just stellar. It really was.
So, effective modernization of an old story idea?
I think it's kind of a new take on an existing story, or maybe a new iteration.
Another modernized update.
Modernized update, because it really wasn't the same story as the Mandarin. In fact, it was completely different, because it turned out the Mandarin wasn't the Mandarin. so yeah.
Now, a lot of the comic book and other types of stories that borrow from like the supernatural abilities, they are, back 40, 50 years ago, it was radiation. That was a big unknown.
Right.
Now we know radiation just kills you, basically. So
gamma rays actually doesn't do anything.
Genetics is the new radiation of the 1950s
right.
and 60s.
Because it's unknown. I think that's really kind of, because back in the day, radiation was unknown. We were scared of it. It could kill you. We didn't really know why.
But it also potentially had healing or science fiction effects to it.
Exactly.
And so they've attributed that now to genetic manipulation.
Right.
And in this movie, very heavily borrowed on it. There's others that have done it too, especially other Marvel characters that have been updated with genetic manipulation.
You could even call it chemical warfare to a certain extent. it's a completely different take on how we ended up getting this bad guy, and I liked it. I really, really did.
What do you think of what happens to Gwyneth Paltrow's character because of the Mandarin?
I think it fit very well with the story, and I think for Tony Stark's character, he needed that. He needed a counterpart. He needed someone that could be as epic and as awesome as he is. He can. So as far as the storyline concerns, I love what happens to Pepper Potts.
Now, I'll be honest. When I saw her getting,
The extremists.
Yeah, the chemical, super formula, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
First thing, a flag went off in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, in the end, she's going to end up saving Tony.
Absolutely. I saw that coming a mile away.
And spoiler right there. No, spoiler number 2. It was just a matter. It was a matter of timing, and then of course she drops into the fiery pit. At this point, I'm like, confirmed.
Right.
There's no way she died from that.
We saw that coming because you can't. Today they don't make movies where main characters like that die.
Right.
You need a happy ending. I think it would have been a better movie had Pepper Potts died. I think it would have been better. I think it would have been great had she been given the extremis. There was a chance that she could have survived. Ultimately, she ended up dying. I think that would have been a better story for Iron Man.
She blows up and
takes the bad guy with her. Right. I think that would have been much better.
Although if that hadn't happened, I would have been here complaining about it with you right now.
Absolutely, and rightfully so. But I would still say it would have been, only because you don't see that. You don't see good guys winning but losing at the same time. In this movie, the good guys won 100%. You even see Tony Stark throw away the miniature arc reactor on his chest.
Yeah.
So,
which I wonder if, survive, he throws it in the ocean. I'm thinking that's got a good 50, 80-year life expectancy before it erodes at the bottom of the ocean. Somebody go get it.
I think something happens.
Some treasure hunter.
Right. Well, I think Nick Fury comes back, says, we need you, and Tony's like, oh, crap, let me go get that I just threw away. Meanwhile, here's my army of drones that I decided to rebuild after cleaning the slate. So,
now, you brought up army of drones. I'm going to stop right there and say, didn't you think they kind of fell to pieces a little too quick?
Yeah, well, yes, but I think that was because, I'd like to think, because it was a new design. He was designing what he called what the hell did he call it?
The Mark 42.
Mark 42. The Mark 42 was designed to come apart and assemble on you. Just
the only one that kind of rolled to pieces.
But it was also the prototype.
Yeah, I'm talking about some of the others. They kind of just went poof,
Right, I gotcha. I think I missed your exit.
Oh, this is it.
Okay. Sorry, we're also driving, like I said.
So you weren't bothered by the various incantations of Iron Man, just kind of...
No, not at all.
Pieces, basically.
I don't know. It's tough for me to say, only because they were going against a pretty spectacular bad guy at the time.
Now, Mandarin himself takes out 5, I think.
Right, 5 or 6. Meanwhile, all the lackeys are able to take out 1 before being taken out themselves. Yeah. Again, getting directions from M. So,
I'm leading him to Disneyland just in case anyone's curious.
There you go. Yes. Will Wheaton, please meet us there.
Yes, by the way, sorry, Will, we would normally have invited you ahead of time, but, we figured you would have seen it yesterday when it actually opened.
Right, you probably actually got a special screening of that. However, we would love to invite you, but the reason we just now get to it is also, I think, because we're a little excited.
Yeah, it was definitely worth the excitement, too.
Yes.
Some movies, disappointment. I was not disappointed.
My favorite scene in this entire movie was when Tony calls the house party. Mm-hmm. When he gets all the suits, he spent many hours, hasn't been able to sleep, spent hours putting all these suits together, and you even see it, I don't think he called it by name, but you even see what the comic book people know as the Hulkbuster.
Oh, yeah.
It's that gigantic mammoth beast that, in theory, was meant to thwart should the Hulk go on a rampage, lose himself. And in the comic series, you actually see that a little bit because the Mandarin tries to use the Hulk as a weapon. But anyway, so on and so forth. So, yes, my favorite scene is getting all those suits together to combat the bad guy. And what made that scene particularly good for me is the hero didn't have a suit, at least not right away. So I loved it. I thought that was so much fun.
Yeah, unlike some of the comic book heroes, which don't translate well because they have so little vulnerabilities, you take Tony out of the suit and he's vulnerable. He's a regular guy.
He is just a regular guy.
And they did that very effectively. They got him out of the suit, but still in the action. And this movie really kicks in that regard.
Oh man, does it ever. Actually, he spends more time out of the suit than any of the other movies, I think, combined, honestly. And you don't miss it.
In a like combat type situation.
In action. He needs to fight the bad guys, but he doesn't have his suit. Which I think is great, because now we see Tony Stark facing his most dramatic moment of probably his entire life. Because now here he is, very much vulnerable. It causes him anxiety and to break down. Mm-hmm. Now he's faced to do this without his suit. Yeah, I think that'd be the worst fear.
I'm going to help the listeners here. This movie did a great job tying in pieces of the other movies.
Yes.
With a little bit of dialogue. Not a lot of visuals in that regard, but they did it effectively because it was part of Tony's kind of problems that he's going through, and they bring it up in the manner of he's got basically PTSD of some design or another.
Well, let's face it. After you face down aliens in New York and traveled through a wormhole, wouldn't you be a little messed up?
Well, until I do it, I'll let you know. But as a guest, I'm going to say no.
No? Okay, good point. Yeah. Okay, good call.
I've been trained specifically to travel through wormholes.
Right!
What else is
of course! Yes!
Not in my history. In any case...
You should actually see it, folks. As we're driving around here, I'm holding up my hands, asking which direction we're going, and Adam is gracious enough to... Basically, we're able to get where we're going, but we're not having to interrupt with where we're going. So, aside from just now. Anyway. But, what was your... Let's see here. In this movie, there was a lot of decent, funny little moments. Not nearly as much as we saw like in Avengers or even Iron Man 2. But there were a few of them in there. They did a good job, as they do in pretty much all the Marvel movies lately, to put a little bit of decent little comedy scenes in there. For instance, in this movie, spoiler alert, we actually see Stan Lee. But Stan Lee is judging a bikini contest, it looked like.
Yeah, and I thought his score was right on.
Yeah,
I agreed.
Absolutely.
You have to actually watch the movie to see what he scores.
Right. Exactly.
By the way, Stan Lee's not the one in the bikini.
No, but thank God for that. But Stan Lee, I love it that he does show up because, those are his children. Those are his babies, this movie. Oh, hey, quick trivia question for you.
Sure.
The director of the first two movies is a guy by the name of Jon Favreau. What else for Iron Man has Jon Favreau done?
Well, he is Happy. That's the name of the
you did know it. Yes, the security guard. Happy. Yep, okay.
And Happy is integral to this particular script.
Absolutely.
I loved what they did with him at the beginning, and he kind of evolved from what he used to do for Tony, and they took it in the right direction. He also is an executive producer of this particular movie.
He didn't direct this one, but he is an executive producer. Right, correct. I came across that little tidbit the other day and wanted to waylay you with a trivia question that didn't work too well. Thanks a lot!
Well, let me throw one back at you.
Okay.
One other movie that Jon Favreau is famous for?
Oh, man. I could see his face. He's been in several, actually. Oh, God. I'm going to spend all day thinking of it, but I'm never going to get there.
Now, I wasn't ready to hit this one with you, but I believe it was called Players.
Players, okay, right.
Yeah, and he stars in that one as well, one of his earlier movies. And he's got a couple other guys that came up with him in that movie. But since that's not what we're discussing, let's get back to Iron Man 3.
Back to Iron Man 3. What else did I want to talk about with this specific movie? Oh, another thing I actually really enjoyed was the amount of destruction that we saw with this film. Iron Man, generally, you'll see a lot of that because he's going around blowing up stuff. But in this one, you see Tony Stark's house take a dive, literally. Yeah. And I kind of liked it. I kind of like it when the good guy, when the protagonist is faced with danger, faced with legitimate fear. I mean, if Tony Stark wasn't ever in danger and there wasn't ever really a crisis to him personally, you'd end up with a movie, say, Steven Seagal's Under Siege movies. In those movies, at no time was he actually under any threat of being hurt. Yeah. But he was still fun to watch. But in this moment, it was kind of nice to see Tony bleed. Mm-hmm. We saw Tony outside of the suit a lot more than he was in the suit, which was great. And he's facing the moment of he needs to protect Pepper, and his suit. He is actually very much attached to those suits, and they bring that to a very big head in this movie.
I think you kind of just touched on something else that I wanted to play up a little bit, and you mentioned it earlier in our review. The latest suit that Tony is working on and wearing for a good portion of this movie is under development.
Right.
And I thought that was great play up for his vulnerabilities. In the earlier movies, he's kind of almost perfect as far as what he does. He designs something, he puts it together, it
works right out the gate. Right.
And in this case, that wasn't the case. It was something in progress, and it was kind of nice to see a little bit of that.
A little bit of failure.
And they didn't play it up either. It was just it was just part of what he was doing.
I like when the crotch piece of the suit just flew on, because I hurt when I saw that.
I think the closest that came to was movie 1 when he does the he jets for the the wall.
He's bouncing off of his cars, doesn't want to burn him up. Right, exactly. But in this one, they bring that together, which is what I was really expecting in this. First off, I guess what I should bring up is that this story, these 3 combined stories of Iron Man, actually kind of follows the story arc of the Extremis comic series, which came out in 2001, 2002, I want to say. It was designed, or it was created to kind of give another version of how Tony Stark came to be Iron Man, and we saw that in the first movie. It was in the comic book, this particular series, the Extremis series. He was wounded by terrorists, digs himself out of the cave like we see, and then through everything that happens, the Mandarin decides to use Extremis to infect humanity with it. And uses them as bombs, as we see in this movie. But the interesting thing about the Extremis is it doesn't work on everybody by giving them superpowers, super abilities. It only works on a very small portion. In Tony's case, it wasn't anything grandiose as flames and whatnot, but it was biotechnology. It allowed him to do exactly what he was currently doing in this movie with the Mark 42. Mm-hmm. It allowed the suit to come to him. And in the comic series, he started carrying around a briefcase that was just the suit. He'd throw it on the ground, and we
kind of saw that in number 2.
Kind of saw that in number 2, but there was less involved of him with it in the idea of the comic series. Threw it down, the thing assembled on him, and it could go to him from anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. So I like that they actually did a good job with sticking with a comic series. Just was not expecting the complete 180 they did with Mandarin.
Yeah.
I was expecting magic. And I didn't get it, but I'm really not that upset about it because of the direction they took.
Now, the actor they picked for the true bad guy of Mandarin,
Guy Pearce.
The only other movie that I know for sure that he's in is Bedtime Stories, where he also plays a bad guy.
Yes, he does.
And they're pretty, the extremes here are pretty...
It's a completely different spectrum.
But he is actually, I really enjoy watching him as a bad guy. And I did not recognize him as the earlier, I'm going to say, elevator version. I didn't recognize him as Guy Pearce at that moment.
Right. No, I didn't either. The messed up, needed medical help guy, whatever the heck he was. I didn't either until finally we see him in his current, modern now, what he looks like. I think he was, was he ever a good bad guy in this film? One of the better bad guys I have seen in a long, long time.
Which made up for the fact that it ultimately wasn't Ben Kingsley.
Right, exactly. It was not Ben Kingsley, because when I want a bad guy in a movie, I need the bad guy to be the guy. I don't want him to be the lackey of someone else like we saw in Avengers. I want him to be the dude. In this way, and this is why it worked out so well, he wasn't even a bad guy, Ben Kingsley. He was just some right from the very beginning. He had no ill intent against it. He was just getting a paycheck for acting out being the part of the Mandarin. Now enter the real Mandarin, I guess is really what he ultimately called himself. He exposes his fiery tattoos and everything else.
Which I thought looked pretty cool.
Looked pretty cool when he got this flaming skin. Oh man, was it fun to watch that bad guy in work. Oh my god. Oh, real quick, I wanted to ask you what you thought of the little fun little tidbit at the end of the credits.
That was fun.
Oh my god.
The come now to expect at the end of a Marvel movie that there's going to be a little bit more. And this little bit more is well worth 5 minutes of waiting or whatever.
What made this little end at the end of the credits more is in every movie previous, there was a hint of what was to come. They didn't do that here. There was just a fun little, hey, here we are. So, the question is, because we see Tony throw away his arc reactor, the suits blow up. Mandarin is no more, who, by the way, is the arch nemesis of Iron Man throughout the entire iteration.
Comic book-wise.
Mandarin is gone. Is this the end of the Iron Man movies?
You want a prediction from me?
Yes.
I think that it's going to go the same way that Spider-Man went.
Copy.
With the, Tobey Maguire.
Right.
And then they do another one. I'm going to predict 12 years.
12 years? Okay. So it's done as far as this iteration of Iron Man.
I hate to say it this way, but Robert Downey Jr. is starting to get a little old for the part.
Right. Yeah.
Not that he can't do a good job of it.
But so is Gwyneth Paltrow for Pepper Pot.
Yeah, but the modern take is to get someone young in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We before this movie, we saw a preview of the new Superman come out, and they, typically they went with a young guy.
Right.
So, do I think they could pull a fourth movie? Absolutely. In fact, I hope that they pull a Avengers 2.
Well, they got Thor 2 coming. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
But as an Iron Man movie, I'm going to say not again.
Probably the last time we'll see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is probably the next Avengers movie. My guess is that's going to be the end of it for him. And I can't blame him. I mean, he's done very, very well. He's made a ton of money doing this. I love it. I mean, this movie was absolutely fantastic. It's just... God, where do you start with all the fun stuff that was in there?
Well, let's bring this to a conclusion. Usually we talk about the drink we're having, since we're obviously at a public theater. So I was drinking, I think it was root beer, and
wasn't it fruit punch? Oh no, your wife.
Well, we traded off.
Oh, okay. I was drinking Coke. Classic Coca-Cola. I would have put booze in it, but honestly, I needed to drive home.
So on that note, how many six-packs would this have required?
You know what? This movie was so much fun. Of the three movies now that we've done this way, this is the best one of those three. That being said, I rated Star Trek 4 at 1.5. I put Flash Gordon at 2 six-packs. This one is going to get a half a six-pack. You only need 3 beers on this movie to make it great.
Actually, I think I would, just the way we saw it. Oh, as a tidbit, we went to a theater. This was a 78-foot screen, over 130 speakers surrounding the entire.
Right, it was loud.
This was a definite must-see theater movie.
Yes.
Not that it wouldn't be great in your home theater, but awesome.
Go to the theater right now. But I just realized by the time you actually listen to this, it'll probably be out of the theater.
Well, maybe for some people.
Maybe for some people, yeah. Either way, really hope you see the movie in the theater. Definitely see it before you come talk to us.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot in there that you really need to catch up on. Yeah.
Well, on that note, since I enjoyed it so much in this particular theater, and I hope that in any theater it's going to be just as good, I would say definitely worth not drinking if that's your
just a tall glass of water, huh?
Exactly.
Nice.
But in my house, I probably would agree. Maybe 3 beers.
3 beers?
Half a six-pack. Yep.
Wow, we're going to agree on a beer count for a movie?
Sure. Why not?
Fantastic.
Well, and part of that is because it's such a long movie. Yeah. I'm going to finish the first 2.
Then you need one just to keep it there, and then you got to fight the bathroom break.
Yeah, Well, there was a line at the end.
Oh my God!
Which tells me that people, they wanted to see the whole thing.
They wanted to see the thing. They wanted to see every minute, every second of this film. And someone told me, if you miss a second, you are missing a lot. And honestly, that is true. You are missing a ton the minute you walk out on that movie.
I think we've just discovered a new rating system. How many people are in line at the end of the movie to use the restroom?
That's right. We saw at least, 40? Yeah, that's right. Well, but see,
there's a problem there. How big a restroom are we talking? We're going to have to set parameters. We can't do
and
that.
how many people actually were in the
Right,
theater?
exactly. So beer count works really well. And not only that, it's a lot of fun. Because actually, it provides some replayability with these episodes. Oh, okay. Anyway, sorry, we had looks like a malfunction of some kind recording. So we're just going to use mine to finish it out here real quick. Filling for time.
Well, we may still be recording over here, but we were going to conclude it anyway.
Right,
so.
we're about done. Great movie, 3 beers apiece each, we think. Fantastic.
All right, and this is M signing off.
And S signing off. Thank you for listening to S&M on Sci-Fi.
Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too.